That's all we can handle is one day at a time. If we project too far, sometimes we get a little discouraged. So one day at a time, we can make it. We're gonna make it by the help of the Lord. He made it for us, so He's gonna make it. I'd like for my wife, Sister Evelyn, Becky, and Judy, different ones here, if you would, go back and lay your hands on Sister Marie. She's not feeling well. I can sense that from up here. We want you to feel good. I tell you, I could never really tell you how much we appreciate the couriers and their work and their steadfastness. Here, take this with you. And I want you to pray, and I want the rest of us
Hallelujah.
to join in with
We serve you, God, for your glory. Hallelujah.
this body. Here on the
Lord, we ask you to
whatever they are, God, you know, and we praise you right now, Lord. You are the answer to everything in our life, Lord. We praise you, we glorify you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you,
in
Jesus.
thy holy,
Thank you,
holy
Master.
temple.
Thank you,
Thank
Jesus.
you, Jesus.
Lord, you are
Hallelujah.
everything. You are
Thank you,
everything,
Jesus.
Lord.
Thank
Your stripes for her healing, Lord. And we claim it in the name of Jesus, Lord. There's power in the name of Jesus.
Take away the aches.
Thank you, Master, right now.
Completely, Lord.
Thank
Just
you,
take away the
Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Lord,
We miss the
praise you.
Spirit,
We
God.
glorify
Just
you,
Lord.
Lord.
Hallelujah.
We give you the honor and the
We give
glory.
you glory.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you,
God,
Jesus.
you are so good, Lord. You love body and you love soul, God. We just praise you.
Thank you for this
We thank
family,
you for the
Lord.
healing, Lord. That comes
It's a special
in the mighty
touch
name
from
of
you.
Yeshua.
Thank you,
Jesus' name.
Jesus.
Jesus,
Thank you,
And we
Jesus.
proclaim it now.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Jesus.
Praise the Lord. Somebody say thank the Lord. I'm assuming we're all right this morning. I miss Sister Ruby White. I'm going to ask her if this is coming through all right. But we'll continue to check. We've had a little problem on some of this, but it takes a little something or other to get it ironed out. And then things go along a little smoother, don't they? Well, we're going to be talking this morning. Our topic is, and we beheld His glory. Talk about the glory of the Lord. Now, I've been talking a lot about Christ. I've been led in that direction. Just a lot about Jesus Christ, Him crucified. And I heard something this week, and then it kind of made me feel a little better about, this is a message that I had prepared, and then God changed our message here a month or two ago. And so I got to looking at this again, and I put it back in the in the monthly calendar for this month, January, because I couldn't get away from it. But I heard something this week that was disturbing, and yet on the other side was revealing. Revealing in a good way. This individual minister was saying that God was leading him more into speaking just about Jesus Christ right now because of the great deception that's going on. And then he informed, and if I got it right, in 10 days, 2 weeks, within 2 weeks anyway, they're having a huge Muslim conference with the Christians and with the Jews. And Pastor Rick Warren is going to be one of the leading ministers there. And the emphasis is, now we heard last week about, the Pope and what was going on. And now we're hearing about the Protestant gathering together in this group. And they're coming together to agree that Jesus Christ is over all of these, and that if you go through certain God, it's the same as going through Christ or whatever. They're gathering together this. However, the leader of the Muslim group said, in essence, this here, we will tolerate the Christians and the Jews, but if they don't agree that Allah is supreme, then we will get rid of them. But folks are blindly gathering together, and there's a tremendous amount of deception going on. So we need to be aware of the truth. And Jesus is not just a letter. He is a person.
Right.
He is a being.
Yes.
And if He abides in us and we abide in Him, we can understand the truth.
Amen.
And we can be shared the destruction of deceit. So this message this morning is a little bit long. I'm going to try and condense it. So I'm not going to say everything you probably want me to say. In fact, sometimes people say, well, you didn't say this. Well, I challenged you to think about it, though, through the Word of the Spirit challenged you to think about it. So there will be some challenges this morning to yourself about thinking, wow, I hadn't realized that. I won't mention it, but the Spirit will mention it to you. And I think that's great. But we're going to start in St. John, the first chapter. And again, as I condense this so that I can get to certain places, then you'll understand this here, and you'll have to go back, study this out, and fill in the blanks that I haven't had the time to fill in for you. In the beginning was the Word. Now, John doesn't mince any words. He gets right to the glory of the Lord. In the beginning was the Word. He's making a statement here. He's establishing a fact. He gets right to the core of his relationship with the Lord. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. And the Word was God.
Yeah.
Said, I want to establish this. Before you read John 3:16, before you read anything else, I want to establish the sovereignty of who Jesus Christ is. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by Him, and without Him was not anything made that was made. He's establishing the sovereign creation. In Him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Light will destroy darkness. Darkness will not destroy light. Can we understand that? There was a man sent from God whose name was John. The same came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe. Then he establishes another fact here. He was not that light. He's wanting us to establish the fact of who Christ is. So far he's established He's the Word, He's God, He's the Creator, He's life, He's light. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. You see all of the facts that he's already establishing for you and I to believe? When we get down to this point alone, we understand in part the sovereignty of who Christ is.
Oh, yes.
He was in the world, and the world was made by Him, and the world knew Him not. Didn't recognize who He was. You imagine a person of this greatness and this importance. God walking into the midst and not being recognized. He came unto His own, and His own received Him not. Another fact, He was rejected. He came to those through the lineage He came in and was not received. But He's establishing another wonderful fact. But as many as received Him, to them gave He power to become the sons of God. That's an established fact. Even to them that believe on His name, which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh. It's not a fleshly thing, nor of the will of man, but of God. Establishes another fact. Unless we're born of Him, we cannot inherit the kingdom of God.
Amen, brother.
And the Word, and here's the verse. And the Word was made flesh.
Amen.
Now what he does not say is that the flesh was made the Word. He's establishing the fact that Jesus Christ is Christ even before He became flesh. We've got to understand that fact. Because some still want to leave Him in the realm of a great prophet. But He's more than that. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we, John, in his testimony, and we beheld His glory. His glory.
Amen.
Not the glory of flesh, but the glory as of the only begotten of the Father. The glory that is divine.
Amen.
Full of grace
Yes.
and full of truth.
Amen.
Wow.
Thank you, Jesus.
We testify. We witnessed. We're going to get into that in just a minute. But I want to slow down a minute because I want us to understand where we're going and then, by the help of the Lord, to get there. Isaiah 42:8 says this. Now remember, John said we're witnesses of His glory. Isaiah 42:8 says, I am the Lord, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another.
Thank you, Abba.
I'm not in the business of sharing the glory of God. Neither my praise to graven images.
Glory.
I'm not into that, he said. And here's what Isaiah 14, this is the downfall of many folks. This is what happened to Satan. Hold on with me, folks. We're going for a ride here.
Come on, let's go.
Isaiah 14:12 through 15. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? How did this take place? What happened in heaven that you were cast out? Son of the morning, you had a high position. How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? He's just talking about the Babylonian situation and how it's going to crumble and all of the other nations of the world. And then he brings Satan into the picture and tells us why that man's governments are not going to last and endure. For thou said in thine heart, listen to what Satan said when talking to himself. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregations in the side of the north. And I want to count these. There's 5, I counted them myself. 5 I wills. Remember, there's a difference between I will and I am. He said, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. And I will be like the Most High. I want to be like God. I want to have the glory. I want to have the worship. I want this same spirit is in mankind today, where that he wants to establish within himself a worship and a glory and his own self-will. I want to be like God. No wonder Jesus came as an example to us in humility. His birth was in humility. His life was in servitude and humility. His death was in humility. But he arose in the glory that he is. Yet the Bible said, the 15th verse, yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the earth. Just because you want to be like God doesn't mean you're going to be God.
Right.
Is what he says. Wow. Here's what Hebrews 1:1 and then part of the 3rd chapter says. God, who at sundry or several times, and in divers or different manners, spake in times past unto the fathers by the prophets. In other words, he's saying the whole Old Testament is full of the glory of Jesus Christ. It speaks of Christ. It talks about Him. The Word speaks of Him. The prophets talk about Him. They point to Him.
Yes, they do.
And then he said, who's being, the third verse, who being the brightness of His glory. He is His own glory, folks. Satan has no glory. Mankind has no glories. He's just full of I wills. He is not the I am, nor can He be the I am. Now you hold on, folks. We're still going on here. I want to get Isaiah 40 and 25. Forgot to mark that one here, but I want to read it. He said, to whom then will you liken me? Or shall I be equal? Saith the Holy One. Who are you going to compare me to? Who's going to be like me? We're going to talk about that a little more in just a minute. Because I want us to turn now to Matthew, the 17th chapter, beginning at the first verse. You see, our generation today is preoccupied with methods. We want to bypass Christ and get instantly into methods. When we find one that works, we immediately want to package it and distribute it around. We find helpful books. We find seminars. We find other areas that help us. But the bottom line is, no one or nothing can help us like Jesus Christ can.
That's right. That's right.
We don't need to learn how to trust in methods. We need to learn how to trust in Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Folks, I want us to go to heaven. I want us to go to heaven. I don't, it's not a matter of being right and wrong. It's just a matter of He's right, and let's establish Him as right.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not right, I'm wrong, but I find in Him He's right, and I want to be like Him.
Yes, that's right. Amen. Yes.
And I want all of us to. Somehow we get the notion we can figure God out. But God is not as predictable as we might think.
That's true.
The Bible says He moves in strange ways, in mysterious ways. But we need to be receptive to His voice and His move in our life. As He thumps on our hearts, we need to allow God to touch us. Power plays mark our society. It marks our government, our business world, even our churches and even our homes. Somebody wants to play God. And usually becomes absorbed in his or her own importance. But we've got to remember, He is the authority. He is the Christ. When Jesus came to the religious folks of His day and time, they were absorbed in their own self-righteousness and their own glory. And they could not recognize Him. When we do that, as a Christian individual, we're going to run in trouble. We must have true faith that can believe past us and focus on Him. Jesus brought the Shekinah glory. Moses came down from the mountain. He had been in the presence of God. And he had to have a veil because the presence of God still illuminated from him, had to have a veil on him. Listen, folks, Jesus came in the flesh, and there was a reason in order to veil man so he could not see his glory, or it would have knocked him down. It knocked Isaiah down. It knocked the Apostle Paul down. And it'll knock every individual down. And so Jesus came in the flesh to veil the appearance and the glory of heaven so that man would not be blinded by him.
Yes.
Moses came down from that mountain after being in the presence of God. You and I, as we get into the presence of God, folks began to realize there's something going on down there. The Shekinah glory has appeared, and we don't stumble at His truths. We realize His truths, don't we? Listen to hear what Matthew records in the 17th chapter, and I'm going to refer back to the 16th chapter also this here. First verse, we're going to go down through the 8th verse, and the 8th verse just has a real powerful message to me, whether it does to you or not, but it does to me. And after 6 days, Jesus taken Peter, James, and John his brother, and bringeth them up into a high mountain, and was transfigured before them. I'd like to be there. And his face did shine as the sun. How many's ever looked into the sun?
Yes.
It'll knock you down, won't it?
Yes.
And his raiment was white as the light. It just radiated. And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias talking with him. Representative of the law and a representative of the prophets. Then answered Peter and said unto him, Jesus, Lord, I've got a great idea. You probably hadn't thought of this, but I've got a great idea. He probably shared it with the James and John. Hey, James and John, I got this great idea. Wow, I'm going to get a pat on the back, sure enough, for this from the Lord. Because this is a great idea. Lord, it is good for us to be here. Wow, this is wonderful. Lord, I'm so glad you saved me. I'm so glad you called me into the ministry. I'm so glad you called me into this and called me into that. I've got some great ideas. I'd like to really share those. I'm going to share them with the Lord first. If thou wilt. He did want to be under the will of the Lord. If thou wilt. But I want you to listen to my idea, Lord. Let us make here 3 tabernacles. One for you, of course. Sounds pretty good so far, doesn't it? One for Moses and one for Elias. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? You know, Peter or James and John might have thought, wow, wonder we should have came up with that idea. Look at this. Now, Jesus, just a few days before this, had asked the disciples a question. He had said to them, whom do they say that I, the Son of Man, am? And one of them said, well, there's a group over here, and they say you're John the Baptist, because you're baptizing folks, or your disciples are, and all of this here. So they've got you labeled as John the Baptist. Now remember how we do as human beings. We like to get Christ to fit our program.
Yes, we do.
But Christ don't fit our program.
Come on, Pastor.
We fit His program or we don't fit.
That's right.
they're John the Baptist group. They believe you're John the Baptist come back to life. And there's another group, another one of the disciples said, and there's another group over here that said Jeremiah. First of all, he said Elias. He said Elias. Because you do all these miracles, you know, like Elijah did. He's come back doing miracles, and we've compared you. You're a type of Elijah because you're a miracle worker. Now we've already got confusion because folks can't figure out whether he's John the Baptist group or he's Elijah group. And then another one said, well, there's another group over here. It's calling you Jeremiah. And they call themselves the Jeremiahs because you remind them of Jeremiah. You're speaking of the judgment of God to come, and you're a weeping prophet. You weep. You have great compassion. So they've looked at this and they've studied it out and they've lined it all up and they've got it all scripturally set that you are Jeremiahs. They're absolutely positive of it. They've got that over their door. And then another group over here says, they haven't quite figured it out, but you're one of the prophets, and they're trying to figure out who you are. But you're one of the prophets.
That's true.
You know, once we figure out who Jesus is, we're going to put him over the door. You know, and we're going to organize. Because we don't want to be like these folks over here, because they're off the wall. Isn't it wonderful to just always be right?
Yep.
You know, there's a lot of groups that they're just absolutely right, and no one else is, and it feels good. I'll tell you what, it feels good. How do you know? Because I've been there.
Yes.
Until God allowed me to understand, hey, you don't have it together.
Mm-hmm.
Only Jesus is right.
That's right. Amen.
So we're going to experience. So we shout and we holler because those folks down the road down there, they're not going to make it anyway. If they do make it, they'll make it as guests. But they're not going to make it because we got it right. Now, folks, I told you, it's going to get down like this. What? Well, finally, Jesus looked over at Peter and he said, Peter, he looked at the disciples and said, who do you say that I am? Peter jumped up and said, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. What he was saying was, I do not recognize you as John the Baptist. I do not recognize you as Elijah. I do not recognize you as Jeremiah. I do not recognize you as any prophet. I recognize you as who you are. You are the Son of God.
Amen, brother.
Yes.
And Jesus said, blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood. You didn't get this scripted to you. You're trying to figure it out and place Jesus in some kind of an order there. He said, blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood. You can read that in the 16th chapter. Flesh and blood hath not revealed this unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. You've got something more than intellectual. It's come in a divine manner. And now then, just a few days after this, Peter had this great ability of not only getting his foot in his mouth at certain times, but getting both of them in there.
Yes.
And choking on them. Lord, I've got a great idea. Now, I think this came straight from heaven. I think God spoke to me on this one. You know, now I'm not talking about God not speaking to us. He does speak to us. But He doesn't speak to us in error. He speaks to us in motivation and allows us to do certain things. Please, please, when the voice of God begins to speak to you, listen to it.
Yes.
And allow it to direct you. It'll direct you the right way.
Yes, it will.
So I got this great idea. He said, let us make here 3 tabernacles one for thee, one for Moses, and one for Elias. Now that's a... Remember, the word already said, I share my glory with no one. First of all, Moses was a type of Christ. But Christ is not a type of Moses.
All right. Right.
He is his own self. He is the great I am. And Peter came up with this great idea that comes to man every day, even in the Christian realm. Man's got some great ideas about what he's going to declare who Jesus is. And Jesus is his own person. He's got his own glory, doesn't he? Well, I got this great idea. Jesus didn't have to say a thing. While he yet spake. Have you ever said something and while you're still speaking you realize, that's dumb? I've been there. And I may be there again. Because I'm human flesh. You know. And while he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and behold, a voice out of the cloud which said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased. Hear you him. Don't get rid of all of your own ideas. And listen to him. In a little plainer English, he was saying, Peter, shut up and listen to the Lord. That's what he said to the Apostle Paul as he traveled along. I'm going to go down and kill some Christians. I'm going to go down and destroy those that are against Jesus Christ. And the light came and said, Paul, shut up. Listen to what I have to say. That's what he has to do to all of us. Yes. This cloud overshadowed them, bright cloud. He said, the voice came then. Jesus didn't have to do a thing. This is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased. Hear ye him. There is no equal. Remember what the scripture said there? To whom then will you liken me? Or shall I be equal, saith the Holy One? He's saying, Peter, don't compare me. Don't compare my son. These are great men. Moses is a great man. Elijah's a great. These both, boy, they were so great, I just took care of their funeral procession myself. They're great men. But you can't compare them with Jesus Christ. He is comparable to no one. Yes. And when the disciples heard it, I want you to know, it wasn't a pleasant sound saying, hey, Peter, you had a great idea, and I appreciate that, but let me explain something to you. No. Here's what the Bible said. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their face and were sore afraid. God wasn't happy. We're not talking about Duck Dynasty, happy, happy, happy. We're talking about God was not happy with this idea of comparing his son with anything or anybody else. He alone is the glory.
Yes.
You listen to him, is what he said. And Jesus came, 7th verse, and touched them and said, arise, be not afraid. Peter, you're just getting into self-will, you know. You human beings have a way of doing that. But he said, don't be afraid. When Jesus touches us. There's times that we say and do things that the Lord comes and reassures us that He still loves us and cares about us. And then the 8th verse. And when they had lifted up their eyes, this hit me. When I'm studying this, I hadn't seen it at first. And then I looked at it and thought, wow, this is a powerful statement. Lord, I hope I can feel in this statement. And when they had lifted up their eyes, when they looked up, and they saw Jesus. Remember, Jesus came and touched them and said, get up. They'd been knocked down by the authority of God, the Father. And when they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no man save Jesus only. You know, when we look to mankind, we're going to be in trouble. But they saw no man. They saw Jesus only. If we're going to get through and we're going to get through deception because of who Jesus is, we've got to look to Him. They looked up. And when they saw Jesus, they saw no man. Peter got over it. That was a bad idea. When I see only Jesus, then I know that I'm seeing the truth. Because it is only through Jesus that I can see the truth.
Amen.
And I know my time is running out, but I want to throw in this right here. It's found in Ephesians 5:27. That He might present it to Himself a glorious church. It's not going to have any wrinkles. Not going to have any spots. That's what the Scripture says. Or any such things. It's going to be young, no wrinkles, just young. No spots, it'll be perfect. It won't have any such thing that will mar the glory of the church. Christ, well, how's it going to be glorious? Us human beings, how's it going to be glorious? The Bible says that it's not only He's the head of the body, or head of the church, but He's also the body. When His glory comes upon the church, not our glory. You know, we want to make it this way, we want to make it that way, and all of this. You know, when God got upset at the Israelites, because God had given them Himself through promise. And if you read the book of Isaiah, you'll find it time and time and time again that they were supposed to be a light to the Gentiles.
Yes.
But they came inward. They became introverted with the glory of God. Like Jesus said, they tried to hide it under a bushel. But He said, no, you need to put it out there where people can see it. The glory of God, not our glory. People are tired and sick of our glory. People vomit at our glory. But they want to see the glory of the Lord. And the church can only be a light as long as the light is in it. We have no light of our own. We have no life of our own. We have no truth of our own. Unless He glorifies the church, it will not be glorious. Now this takes me back to what I was introducing a while ago. Any organization, I don't care how many millions of them, any organization that disclaims that Christ is who He is and He's only a prophet, or He is for every, everybody worships Him when they don't.
Right.
They won't make it.
We've got to strive to Christ, not Christ strive to us. Remember, Jesus said, I've chosen you. You haven't chosen me. I've chosen you. I set the precedence.
Yes.
I set the direction that we're going in. And when we see only Jesus, we're going to be able to understand that He is the truth. We don't need to focus on anyone else or anything else. Focus on Him, and then He reveals all these other things to us, the important things. All of the Scriptures, Old and New, He reveals that to us, but through Him.
Yes.
Because He is the glory of the church. Isaiah saw this glory. Find it in the 6th chapter of Isaiah. Stephen saw His glory, the Bible said.
Yes, he did.
While being stoned, he looked and saw the glory of the Lord. He saw Jesus standing. Bible said He was sitting, but he saw Him standing. Come on now. I see Jesus standing at the right hand of the Father. He saw the glory of the Lord, the Bible said. He was experiencing the glory of the Lord. Please, folks, remember this. Jesus is not a type of anything. He is not a filler. He is not someone who needs to replace someone else. No. He is still the glory that He is. Still the I am.
Yes, He is. Amen.
We can become a type of Christ, but He doesn't become our type.
That's right.
He doesn't like our type. If He did, He'd leave us like we are. But He wants to change us. I'd like to have that song, if you would, tonight, at this time. Folks, I want us to understand the glory of God. The glory of Jesus Christ.
Lord of glory.
And as we experience, and I believe it's getting ready to fall. I believe it's really getting ready to fall in God's people.
Yes.
As we get closer